Hello guys, welcome back to TierSpec TV. During the summer we tried to get our Land Rover Lightweight started for the second time now, and if you don't know, this Lightweight is basically the origin of TierSpec TV because it is what we used in our very first TierSpec TV video ever. But our progress was halted because of one bolt upon us trying to fix what needed to be fixed to get it started again. So Nissa, could you please explain what happened and where you got that bolt?
So as Liam said, the only thing that stopped us was this little missing piece. It's a tiny bolt that goes on top of the ejector. I'm not sure what it actually does, but apparently we need it. So after we got the pump rebuilt and everything, because we found out the whole fuel system just completely clogged up because the diesel has been in there for far too long. So we cleaned out both fuel tanks, we got the pump rebuilt and put it in, and then we found out that they sent back, actually first they didn't send this bolt at all because it was in it when we shipped it off to them. Then we just got it back without the bolts, and we said to them we need the bolt back, and then they sent the wrong bolt back. So then we went to LRO, and all of a sudden I saw a pump laying on the ground in that spare marketplace, and I just went, I wonder what he wants from that one. I pulled it out and asked the guy, and he said, yeah, I can take it for £1 pound.
So now there's someone who's bought that pump, who's taken it home and found out the same thing,
missing the same one.
We took the bolt from it.
But now we got one, so we don't care. So this guy needs to go onto the pump, or the injection pump on that guy, then we need to bleed the system, and hopefully he will fire back up in the first time in how many years?
3? 4? Yeah, 3.
3 or 4 years.
3, I think, because we took it off-roading in 2015, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that day. Yeah,
that was 3 years ago.
I remember it.
So it's more than 3 years. It's a bit more than 3 years ago since this has been running properly. Yeah. And we tried starting it again last summer
with
as
the
well.
glow plugs.
Yeah, with the glow plugs. We did a video on that last summer. We couldn't get it started.
That wasn't a problem.
And then this summer we tried getting it started again, and it wasn't successful because of that. Yeah. And now that we've got that, we're going to try. So presumably, unless we find some other missing piece in there, it should start. Unfortunately, we can't get it out right now because there's a whole bunch of farming equipment on the other side behind the camera, and but we will, you know, film something with it later. So we'll just film the first half of this video now, and then after we've got it started, we'll cut to the bit where we actually get it moving again. But today, for us, we're just going to try and get it started.
So now I got everything hooked up to the pump. I'm just going to prime it using a little hand lever down here. Otherwise than that, we pretty much just have to prime it and air out all of these injectors. Then it should sprinkle into life, and if it does, it's all good. And we're gonna clean out the fuel tanks and put some fuel into the fuel tanks, and then we should be ready to go.
So the Lightweight, being a military vehicle like the one I won, has 2 batteries, and those 2 that are in it are now dying, so we've just gone to get 2 more, which we're going to use to jump start it. Yeah. No hay.
No, it's because using this stuff. It's not the fuel system.
It smells like those fireworks we used to play with as kids.
Well, hopefully no sparks. The reason why I went so high up in RPM is because when they rebuilt the pump, they just put like everything, all the screws into it. So we need to like adjust it, what's called idling speed somehow, which I don't know how to do it, but there should be a way. I found a little bugger here. So we loosen that guy. I think the throttle will need the other way. So the car all of a sudden shut off. And then I wonder why did it do that, and then I found out it's because not getting any diesel, and I think it is because we got an airlock somewhere in one of the hoses. It just got like moved forward and forward and forward, and all of a sudden it ended up in the pump, so it's going to bleed it one more time. It did sound like there's coming some air out of one of these bleed nipples. Handbrake doesn't work. It's a rare thing that handbrake works in mild cars.
Yeah, it's true actually.
I'm old. Like the old pilots.
So it has now been a week since we restarted the Lightweight, or revived the Lightweight, and it is now I think free of all the clutter that was around it. So we're going to go and take it out for a drive. It's still in the same spot. No, it is still parked over here. Here she is, first time going out for a drive in 3 years. And fun little fact for you, I'm sure we must have mentioned this on the channel before, but these red tow hooks, Nissa and I painted these red and repainted this bumper black back in like 2011 or something, when we used to muck around with this on the farm. And then also the very first video we ever did for Tierspec TV, which is no longer on YouTube, we had a sort of or a GoPro mount duct taped right there in the middle of the bumper, which unfortunately you can't, well actually you can see the duct tape marks. You can see where the duct tape was, and that is from the very first video we ever made back in 2011, I believe it was. So typically, now that we want to get it out, we've just discovered a diesel leak from possibly both sides, but definitely the right hand side fuel tank, and we just drained it all out and then filled it back up again, and now it doesn't seem to be leaking as much, so we're not quite sure what's going on, because it was definitely leaking or dripping quite considerably before. So I'm just going to dry the underside and see what happens, because I don't know if the dripping that's happening now is from the tank or whether it's just diesel left over on the underside that's just dripping down. It doesn't look as bad now.
No, it does not.
There might be something missing there.
What happened and what you did to fix it? I don't think I fixed it yet, but we simply just took the, what do you call it? What? Like the bolt for the middle, like drain plug. That was it. Yeah. Drain plug. Took the drain plug
find out if the brakes work. Not that well.
I wouldn't say that's working.
It's a windy day, so we should just drive into the wind so that it slows us down. So steering input, steering input, steering input, steering input. The ride is not as bad as I thought it would be actually.
No.
It's actually okay. Especially with the rubber bushings which have gone into retirement, as we said.
Well, it's not smoking anymore. That's good.
Well, then something's wrong. I can imagine if you put some grippier tyres, beefier tyres on this, it would be pretty good off-road actually.
Quite nimble around.
Yeah, it's nimble. It's short and it's light.
Oh.
What?
Like to jump out of second gear going downhill.
I do remember, I think this was the first manual car I ever drove. And I remember it had the worst gearbox.
Yeah.
Like, it was impossible to find gears.
A litre of diesel smoke a day keeps the doctors away.
Yeah, because you'll be dead before you can get to the doctor.
See if low gear still works.
I'm going to jump out and film you out the outside. I need fresh air. I used to have asthma pretty bad as a kid, and I think it's coming back now thanks to that. That was awful. Absolutely awful. It's not quite the same as when we last drove it.
You don't like the smell of diesel?
I shortened my life by about 10 years.
Good.
So at this point we should say that, oh, well, we've already mentioned that this was the Land Rover we used in the first ever TS-Spec TV video, but we're now driving around the very track or the circuit we drove around for that first video, which is quite weird and nostalgic in a way. And I mean, if you think about how far we've come from that day, it was a rainy summer's afternoon where we duct taped a GoPro, a first generation GoPro, to the front bumper of this very lightweight and drove around this very track when we were about 15, 16 years old. Here's a pro rally driver. I always thought the noise in your V8 was bad on the motorway, but I can't imagine what this would be like. The noise level when you're doing like 30 kilometers an hour in here. Right, so that was the lightweight for the first time in 3 years, and hopefully it won't be the 3 years again until we get it out. But
no, definitely not.
At the same time, I'm not sure my lungs can take another trip for a few years.
Maybe exhaust is next.
Maybe,
And
maybe
brakes.
Exhaust, brakes,
Suspension.
fuel tank, suspension.
The whole car.
Everything might be on the list as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it needs a bit of work. It has obviously suffered slightly from its neglect over the past few years. I think it was in slightly better condition when we last drove it. So yes, we will see. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like, and if you want to see more content from us, then hit subscribe down below, and we will see you in the next video.